y'all? Continuing on with the human design motivation series, we are moving to fear. And it makes a lot of sense that before this video, I really felt called to freshen up and research a few little nuggets on fear motivation. Even though I was raised by a mother with a fear motivation, I've had many intimate experiences with fear motivation people and a lot of clients with fear motivation. But the reason I say it's not that surprising is fear motivation corresponds to the one line, which is the investigator energy. So I kind of just laughed at myself as I caught it halfway in researching some of these things that I already know, but I've made a list and I feel very organized for this video, and I was like, why for this one am I being like so particular? And it hit me, I was like, duh, the investigator, you're channeling the investigator, this is what they do. So funny. So I thought that would be an interesting way to start the video. So let's talk about motivation in human design. It is the way that you are intended to navigate your life. It is something that others expect to experience through you and from you, and your aura will pulsate out this motivation, and people will sense it and feel it, as I mentioned, and likely seek you out for it. So the more aware of it and in alignment you can be with it, the better. So fear motivation, the one line. It is the first motivation that we begin with. It is very fundamental, foundational, and those are all really key words for the investigator. So fear-motivated people are really intended to get into the nitty-gritty of things. They are motivated to understand why, how, when, how much, when will it be, like the logistics of it, So they want to get in there, get to the bottom of it, get the details, understand the foundation, where they stand, and inform. And they're here to share with others. Now, one thing I didn't mention in the Hope Motivation video is that it's really important that you check out your authority in human design, open centers you might have, profile, type, all of these things have an influence and an impact on how your motivation is expressed. And I think that it's important to understand that first and foremost, and then the fear motivation will then get filtered through the type and authority that you are. So I have a few little nuggets here that I want to share on fear motivation, and I will certainly share the resource that I gathered these from. So it'll be at the bottom of the video. Fear motivation in human design doesn't imply that we are motivated by fear itself, but rather refers to our tendency to prevent, avoid, or mitigate circumstances that could lead to fear. This could mean that we tend to be very careful or cautious in our decision making, often considering the worst case scenario. And if you watch the Hope Motivation, I made a joke about my beloved, dear, spectacular mother who has a fear motivation. And there's been times when my Hope Motivation has definitely bumped heads with her fear motivation, who is really meant to get into the nitty gritty and bounce all these potentials down the road in order for her to gather information and then feel safe. Whereas Hope couldn't care less about the details. I mean, the details bogged me down, they slowed me down, they killed my sparkle. Hope says, I don't know why I know this, but it's gonna work out. It always does, always has, always will. La 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 la, let's go fucking play. So we all have a role to play, as I did mention in the other video. It is all significant that we play our role and play it well, because we really need each other. We are here to kind of bounce things off of each other and support each other, and make, it's ideal when someone's covering the details, someone's bringing the light and the hope, and on and on and on. So for me, I think in a really healthy ecosystem, really craves all of the motivations to be laced in one. And if you notice too, when you run your synastry of your parents or your children or your partners, you might be able to see and make sense of why they might be the way they are. I will say, if you have a fear motivation person in your life, one of the best things you can do is entertain their worst case scenario play-by-plays. Now, Entertain it means allow them to have their process, but also you may need to be the one that checks them on, hey, I think you're debilitating movement because you're thinking of all the negatives instead of the positives. Now, of course, this is coming through a Manny Jen, hope, motivation, emotional being. So this is how I would balance a fear or motivation person. For you, it may be different. But I find oftentimes I'm there to just remind them like, hey, don't forget about the one element you can't calculate, which is God and faith and magic. So that is always existing. We know that. There's so many signs of it. So I'm always reminding my fear motivation people to factor that into their worst case scenarios. Another little nugget here. Fear motivation in human design doesn't imply that we are motivated by fear itself, but rather refers to our tendency to prevent, avoid, or mitigate circumstances that could lead to fear. Now, I wanted to repeat this because I think it's really important that you understand that fear people do not live in fear. They are instead, the fear can be an awareness for them, like a primal instinct. And that motivation encourages them to want to prevent, avoid, and mitigate circumstances by researching, investigating, looking into, getting backup plans, informing people that need to be informed, all of the above. And to my mom's point, she is incredible at this. Oh my God, incredible. For those with fear motivation, personal growth can often involve learning to manage caution and apprehension constructively. People with fear motivation may be prone to anxiety or excessive worry due to their anticipation of potential problems. Understanding this can help them develop effective coping mechanisms and strategies to manage their mental health. So I would definitely concur with that. I think that they can be beings that are, worry warts when this motivation is unchecked. And what's interesting is, we spoke about this in the hope motivation video, but the transference for fear is actually need. And need is where, instead of investigating and looking into all the potentials, instead a fear person, when in their shadow state or in their head or not in their body, not present in their truth, they'll just go into need, which is, I don't need to look into anything or research anything. I'm just going to start doing. And the need has a very action oriented motivation, and some people have this motivation and it is correct for them to move in that way. But for fear people, it really isn't. I mean, for fear people, it's not about taking action or moving really, really quickly necessarily. I mean, a lot of times it's about getting into the nitty gritty, getting the details, and then waiting. Fear people don't need to be running around like a chicken with their head cut off. They really, really don't. I love that it mentioned there, like, risk management. I think that is an incredible thing. I think fear people are also incredible at like trend reporting, trend forecasting, and just noticing where something might go to and then playing it out in several different scenarios. And then maybe presenting to someone who has like a desire motivation, who's like, okay, here's our strategy now. Here's like, I'm going to lead the charge now that I have the information. So again, going back to that theory that I have, that we all have our roles to play and we all are here to support each other and make the ecosystem flow and move more smoothly by playing our role. So I love fear motivation people so much. I have another little nugget that I'm going to read, and then I'm going to leave you with a few quotes on fear. This motivation is tied to our survival instincts and is all about giving yourself the time needed to really investigate something before you commit your energy there. This motivation can be great for deep esoteric work because you're always searching for the root of things. Be mindful, however, of letting that need to be 100% certain get in the way of taking action or growth. So, fear motivation people can definitely become debilitated by all of their potentials, and then it can feel like, they need someone like a hope motivation to be like, hey, I know it seems really sketchy and kind of like a long shot and it might be a little challenging, but like, you should totally go for it because it might work out. And I think hope and fear can really play nicely together, you know? So here's a few really powerful quotes I found on fear that I'll leave you with for this video. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. That's a quote by Franklin Roosevelt. Do the thing you fear, and the death of fear is certain. That's Ralph Waldo Emerson. Love that quote so much. Fear is the thief of dreams. The Bryan Cranston quote. And then this one, finally. Courage is not the absence of fear, but action in spite of it. Mark Twain. I love you all. If you're fear motivation, please comment below. I will continue doing this series because it's really lighting me up. And I hope that it supports you, and I hope it nourishes you. And please, as a reminder, be sure that you also are in alignment with your authority and your type while you're adding in understanding the nitty-gritty of motivation. It's meant to add a layer on to your foundation of type and authority. If you can align with your type and authority, you really don't even need to get nerdy about motivation, although it's very fun. Okay, I love you all. I'll see you tomorrow.